The sky was a deep, dark blue, almost black. It was a mysterious color that created a sense of foreboding. There was something in the air that seemed to hum with an unusual energy. It was an intangible feeling, difficult to describe, but it was there, permeating the atmosphere. As the minutes passed, the sense of anticipation grew stronger. It was as if the entire world was holding its breath, waiting for something momentous to happen. Suddenly, there was a sharp crackle of electricity that jolted through the air. It was as if a bolt of lightning had struck, but there was no thunder. The ground shook and the trees swayed, as if they were being pushed by a strong wind. It was at that moment that people began to realize that something strange was happening. They looked around, searching for an explanation, but there was none to be found. The energy in the air was building, and it was impossible to ignore. And then, it happened. A sudden surge of electricity surged through the atmosphere, enveloping everything in its path. The air crackled and sparked with energy, and people could feel it tingling on their skin. It was as if the very fabric of reality was being ripped apart, piece by piece. As the surge of energy subsided, people began to feel a strange sensation. It was as if their consciousness was being taken over by an external force. They felt their minds being pulled in different directions, as if they were being manipulated by some unknown entity. The takeover of consciousness had begun. People tried to fight it, to resist the foreign presence that was invading their minds, but it was useless. The energy was too powerful, and the force behind it was too strong. They were helpless, unable to do anything but surrender to the takeover. As the minutes turned into hours, and the hours turned into days, the world was transformed. The takeover of consciousness had changed everything. The sky was no longer blue, but a sickly shade of green. The air was thick with a noxious fog, and the ground was scorched and barren. Nothing was the same, and nothing would ever be the same again. A powerful force descended from the heavens, a fleet of strange and alien ships that blotted out the sun. The people of the planet watched in terror as the ships hovered ominously in the sky. They knew that this was no ordinary event. This was an invasion. The aliens were a species unlike anything the people had ever seen before. They were tall and thin, with skin that glowed an otherworldly blue. Their eyes were large and black, and their movements were smooth and fluid. They exuded a sense of power and authority that was both awe-inspiring and terrifying. The people of the planet knew that they were powerless to stop the invaders. Their weapons were useless against the advanced technology of the alien ships. They could do nothing but watch in horror as the ships began to descend to the surface, landing in various locations across the planet. As the ships landed, the people of the planet began to feel a strange sensation. It was as if their minds were being slowly taken over, as if the aliens were infiltrating their very thoughts. They tried to fight it, to resist the alien influence, but it was no use. The invasion was underway, and they were powerless to stop it. The aliens wasted no time in asserting their dominance. They set up command centers in strategic locations, and began to take control of the planet's resources. They began to alter the planet's atmosphere, making it more suitable for their own needs. They experimented on the people, using them as subjects for their strange and advanced technology. The people of the planet were trapped, caught in the grip of the alien invasion. They watched as their world was transformed before their very eyes, becoming a strange and unfamiliar place. They knew that they had to fight back, but they were powerless to do so. And so the invasion continued, with the aliens tightening their grip on the planet with each passing day. The people of the planet could only watch in horror as their world was changed beyond recognition. They knew that they had to find a way to resist the alien influence, to fight back against the invasion. But with their minds slowly being taken over, it seemed like an impossible task. As the alien invasion continued, a small group of rebels emerged to fight back against the invaders. They were a diverse group of people, from all walks of life, who had banded together in the face of overwhelming odds. They knew that they were up against a powerful enemy, but they refused to give up without a fight. The rebels gathered their strength and prepared for battle. They scoured the planet for any weapons or technology that they could use against the aliens. They trained rigorously, honing their skills and tactics to perfection. They knew that they were outnumbered and outgunned, but they were determined to make a stand. The aliens had underestimated the power of the people. They had assumed that their advanced technology and superior firepower would be enough to crush any resistance. But they had not counted on the determination and courage of the rebels. The resistance began to gain ground, striking back against the invaders with increasing frequency and intensity. They hit the aliens where it hurt most, targeting their resources and supply lines. They used guerrilla tactics and surprise attacks to keep the aliens off balance. The aliens were taken aback by the resilience of the rebels. They had not expected such fierce resistance from a seemingly primitive species. They began to realize that they had underestimated the power of the people. The fight for freedom had begun, and it was a long and grueling battle. The rebels suffered many losses, but they refused to give up. They knew that they were fighting for the survival of their planet, for their families and loved ones. They were willing to lay down their lives for the cause. As the rebellion grew stronger, the aliens began to falter. They had lost their initial momentum, and their resources were dwindling. They realized that they could not win the war through force alone. They began to look for other ways to negotiate with the rebels. And so the battle raged on, with both sides locked in a deadly struggle for control of the planet. But the rebels had the power of the people on their side, and their determination and courage began to turn the tide of the war. They knew that they had a long and difficult road ahead of them, but they were prepared to fight to the bitter end. The battle between the rebels and the alien invaders raged on for days, with both sides suffering heavy losses. The rebels fought valiantly, using every trick and tactic they had learned in their struggle against the invaders. But the aliens seemed unstoppable, with their advanced technology and superior firepower. Just when it seemed like all hope was lost, a mysterious force joined the fight. It was the power of consciousness, a force that had been dormant within the people of the planet. The rebels had heard rumors of this force, but they had never seen it in action before. As the rebels fought on, they suddenly felt a surge of energy coursing through their bodies. It was as if they were suddenly infused with a new power, a power that was beyond anything they had ever experienced before. They felt their minds opening up, connecting with one another in a way that was both exhilarating and terrifying. The rebels began to use this newfound power to their advantage. They worked together as a unified force, coordinating their attacks and movements with a precision that was almost supernatural. They used their minds to tap into the alien technology, finding weaknesses and vulnerabilities that they had never known existed. As the battle raged on, the tide began to turn. The rebels had found a new source of strength, a power that the aliens had not anticipated. They used this power to strike at the heart of the alien invasion, targeting their command centers and cutting off their supply lines. The aliens were taken aback by the sudden change in the tide of the battle. They had never encountered anything like the power of consciousness before. They began to retreat, pulling back their forces and regrouping for a new attack. But it was too late. The rebels had gained the upper hand, and they were not about to let it slip away. They pressed their advantage, striking at the aliens with renewed vigor and determination. They fought with a ferocity that the aliens could not match, driven by a newfound sense of purpose and conviction. And in the end, the battle was won. The rebels emerged victorious, having defeated the alien invaders and freed their planet from their grip. They had tapped into a power that they had never known they possessed, a power that had been lying dormant within them all along, and they knew that they would never forget the lessons they had learned in their struggle for freedom. With the defeat of the alien invaders, the people of the planet were finally free. They rejoiced in their newfound freedom, but they also mourned the losses that had been incurred during the long and bitter battle. The planet was in ruins, with many cities and towns reduced to rubble. But despite the devastation, the people had hope. They had seen the power of consciousness in action, and they knew that they could use it to create a better future. They began to work together to rebuild their world, determined to make it a better place than it had been before the invasion. They used the power of consciousness to heal the wounds of the planet, repairing the damage that had been done and restoring the natural beauty that had been lost. They worked to create a more just and equitable society, one in which all people were treated with dignity and respect. As they rebuilt their world, the people never forgot the lessons they had learned during the invasion. They knew that the power of consciousness was not something to be taken lightly, and they worked to harness it for the greater good. They understood that they had been given a second chance, and they were determined to make the most of it. And so, the takeover of consciousness was over. The people had triumphed over the alien invaders, and they had emerged stronger and more resilient than ever before. They had discovered a power within themselves that they had never known existed, and they had used it to create a brighter future for themselves and for their planet. The battle against the alien invaders had been a harrowing experience for the people of the planet, but it had also been a valuable lesson. They had learned that the power of consciousness was a force to be reckoned with, and that they could use it to overcome even the most daunting challenges. As they rebuilt their world, the people worked to harness the power of consciousness in new and innovative ways. They used it to create advanced technologies that could help them solve problems and improve their lives. They used it to deepen their understanding of the world around them, exploring new realms of science, art, and spirituality. And as they did so, they never forgot the lessons they had learned during the invasion. They remembered the sacrifices that had been made, and they honored the memory of those who had fallen in battle. They also recognized the power of unity and cooperation, and they worked to build a society in which all people could live in peace and harmony. With time, The planet was restored to its former glory. The scars of the invasion faded away, replaced by vibrant new cities and communities. The people lived in harmony with one another, working together to create a world that was more just, more equitable, and more compassionate. And though the takeover of consciousness was a distant memory, its legacy lived on. The people of the planet were stronger and more resilient than ever before, with a deep understanding of the power of consciousness and the importance of working together for the greater good. They had learned a valuable lesson, and they had emerged from the battle with a renewed sense of purpose and hope.